Here's a question I get asked quite frequently, and basically it's someone who owns a house and the house is worth less than what they owe, and they ask if they can, what are their options as far as can they sell it, can they negotiate with their lender, what can they do? So I'm going to go over this scenario with you. So imagine someone with a house that's worth $150,000, and they owe, so that's the market value, and then they owe, their mortgage is $160,000. So what are their options? Well, the first option is they could, and they really, let's say if they really have to sell the house. So if they had to sell the house, they could, and the most they could get for it is $150,000. They could go to their lender and ask them if they could either work out they may be able to work out a deal for the shortfall, but likely the lender will, if they let the sale go through, they'll probably sue you. I know that in the U.S. it's possible to go in and negotiate with your bank, but in the Canadian banks are not, or Canadian lenders are not as keen on negotiating these things. So unfortunately that's the way it would work. You'd probably get sued or be bankrupt if you didn't have the difference. So I'll give you an example. The other thing you could do is, let's just do this. Let's say this fellow did sell his house. So he sold his house for $150,000, and he owes $160,000. He also has money, and if he sold it with a realtor, he probably $8,000, or depending on your province, $8,000 in real estate fees, plus his mortgage had a penalty on it. Let's say his mortgage is $4,000. So a total amount of money in order to complete the sale would be $172,000. So on the one hand here, you have a buyer who says, I'll give you $150,000, and you have you need $172,000 to clear that title. And so what will end up happening is the seller would have to come up with the difference in order for this sale to go through. And it can be done. So if the seller did have the $22,000, so this was the seller, what happens is the buyer would bring $150,000 to the lawyer's office, the seller would bring $22,000 for a total of $172,000, and then the sale would be able to complete. So the only way that you can get out of this situation cleanly is obviously by paying whatever the shortfall is. And don't forget, when you figure out those shortfalls, it's not just the pure sales price. There's also legal fees in there, which I didn't include, but there's going to be some legal fees, there's going to be probably real estate fees, and depending on the mortgage, probably a penalty. So unfortunately, you cannot negotiate your way out of it. You can buy your way out of it if you have the cash, or the other option is you just stay put and you don't sell the house. So if you have a house that is worth less than what you owe, one of your best options, if you're in the position to do it, is to hold on to it for the long term, because over the long run, it'll come back eventually, and then you won't actually have incurred a loss. So if you have questions on this, or if you're in a situation similar to this and you want some options, you can give me an email to scott@scottbeckford.ca.